welcome to episode 17 of That Dynasty podcast. It's championship week. Championship is finally upon us. And I'm super excited to be playing this week for the amazing title of third place. And
What happened?
listen, we'll get into this. We will get into this. But as always, my name is Matthew. My co-host Isaiah here. We want to welcome you into the podcast. Thanks for if you've been listening all season. Thanks for tuning in for 17 episodes. If you just discovered that we have a custom podcast about this league this week and just now caught up on all 17 episodes, Seed and Power, welcome as well. You're still welcome to the podcast.
Well, he was welcome to give you an ass whooping this week, so.
Yeah, well, if I have one, message for Seed and Power, it would be read your sleeper DMs, because we've been talking about this podcast for week 17, so 17 weeks now.
He's been preparing for last week's matchup, dude. He was busy.
Yeah, that's fair. Clearly it didn't help me succeed this week. But we'll get into this. But as always, guys, please give us a like on the video, comment down below. Keeps the algorithm moving, as well as give us a subscribe if you're on YouTube. Follow us if you're listening to the podcast. We appreciate it. And we're hoping to get some sweet custom dynasty content going on through the off season, start talking about next year's rookie draft class, as well as any moves that happen in our league throughout the off season once the trades open back up again. So I'm excited for that. And super excited to let's just talk about this week. We're going to go over last week's results, and then we're going to talk about the two matchups that really matter this week, because the way that our league pays out, we pay out first place, second place, and third place in this league, as well as we have like rebates for people's win-loss records, which gives people back basically a portion of any of their like additional bets that they place on each game, essentially. So let's, without further ado, let's talk about the two week 16 matchups from last week. Isaiah, let's talk about the closest matchup first.
So we're not going to talk about your matchup. Got it. Closest matchup of the week was Darius going up against King Cobb. Probably second and third, I would say, best teams during the regular season. And they both actually underperformed by quite a bit. Originally, Darius was projected for about 140, and King Cobb was projected for about 120. Darius ended up at 110, with King Cobb getting 95. So Darius did pull it off. The commission did move on to the finals. But taking a look at the rosters for this week, what did it for? Oh God, there was a couple failures for King Cobb there. Starting off, DeAndre Hopkins had one reception for 4 yards on 10 targets. That's insane. That is not what you want.
Is it not? Oh, I thought it was 14 points, but no, that's 1.4 points.
Yeah, you don't get points for each reception you don't catch. And then Zay Jones decided to have a crap week this week, although I could use it last week, but that's besides the point. With 14 yards receiving, with -3 yards on the ground for a total of 2.1 points.
To be fair, the weather conditions in that game were absolutely horrible. I would not have started Zay Jones.
Yeah, that's a true story. David Njoku didn't do a whole much. He had 4.5 points. And then I think the real kicker was the Lions defense giving him -11 points as they went up against the Carolina Panthers, and they gave up 570 yards the entire game. That's insane.
So just to put this in perspective, if he hadn't started the Lions defense and he hadn't started Zay Jones because it was horrible weather and started Cortland Sutton, who probably would have been the best choice in there, he would have won this game if he just hadn't started a defense.
Yeah, or he could have started even the other two defenses, and he would have won with Cortland Sutton.
Yeah.
So, that sucks for King Cobb. Justin Fields didn't give him a whole lot, but looks like he was trying to ride the hot hand with Zay Jones and let him down. Looking at Darius's roster, Josh Allen gave him 22. Darius Swift. I'm sorry, DeAndre Swift didn't do a whole lot. Stephon Diggs gave him 4.5 points. Mark Andrews still another game under 10 points at 9 points. Looking at his flex spots, that's where he won the game. Travis Kelce gave him 20.5, and then Keenan Allen gave him 21.5 on 11 receptions over 100 yards. So
Yeah,
good on Darius.
I think it is definitely crazy to look at that Keenan Allen trade that we talked about being hugely in Darius's favor earlier in the year. We said, Noah Brown for Keenan Allen, and he sat on Allen for months, and just as he did nothing, and Noah Brown did nothing. So we're like, all right, whatever. But then Keenan Allen comes in here and just won him, a trip to the championship. So once again, just proving how lopsided of a trade that was. But that being said, he got really lucky because like Mark Andrews, another dud week. Stephon Diggs, that was a crazy game. That was a bad weather game too, like super cold. But like Diggs, and we'll talk about Devontae Adams in a minute, just let a lot of fantasy managers down this week. DeAndre Swift, they just don't want to give him the ball. I did hear that this week, Jamal Williams might be out. He might be sitting out or injured or something like that. So if that's the case, Swift will obviously get a little bit more of a workload, and he's going up against Chicago this week, who is terrible against the run. So could be a good matchup for Swift. But yeah, it was just certainly a weird matchup for Darius. Super underperformed. I honestly thought that I might have a chance to have beaten everyone in that bracket. And if that was the case, I would have definitely been very frustrated to, we'll talk about this in a second, lose my matchup. But I would have been more upset to lose my matchup if my points were higher than both of the teams that won in the second matchup. So thankfully that didn't happen. Darius did score more points than me, even though he underperformed, because I underperformed more. That's Darius versus King Cobb. King Cobb, you're going down this week, man. I'm coming for that third place. Going down.
Yeah, that's what you said last week as well. Not to piggyback on the whole Keenan Allen Noah Brown trade, but Keenan Allen gave him 21.5 points last week, and I'm looking at Noah Brown's stats now. Do you know what they were?
What? 0?
1 reception for 5 yards for 1.5 points. So if Darius had won that trade already, he definitely won it last week. Can we talk about the my favorite matchup of the week next?
Yeah, favorite matchup of the week was Seed and Power versus $96 Fab Bids. My trusty team, the number 1 seed, going up against the number 5 seed, got absolutely destroyed by 50 points. Yeah, so let's talk about this matchup for a second. Seed and Power, welcome to the podcast. Nice to have you joining us. All right, so we'll start off with who underperformed. Let's see who's on.
He said, "Let's talk about who underperformed my entire roster except for Austin Eckler and the Bengals defense."
It's so bad. It was so bad. Gerald Everett, tight end. I'm not even sure if he played. Let me see if he played. Apparently played 54% of the snaps. I'm not sure if Justin Herbert saw him out there because he didn't target him once. He saw no action. 0 points.
Gerald Everett played 54% more of the snaps than Albert O did. They both ended up with 0 points. So suck it, Matthew.
Oh man, I wish I had known he wasn't going to play. I would have started Logan Thomas. Not that
and
I
lost by 40 instead, or what?
I was going to say at this point, like I've been running through scenarios in my head of like, what could I have done to have won this week? And to be honest with you, there's nothing I could have done to have won this week because the people I would have sat wouldn't have made a difference, and I still would have lost by 20 points.
Honestly, if you would have lost during the regular season in an extra game, you would have probably beaten King Cobb maybe if you had faced him. But
yeah, that is true.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, because if Darius was the number 1 seed, he would have been facing Seed and Power, and then if that was the case, then I would have been there. Yeah, you're right. But yeah, so Tom Brady, I started Tom Brady against Arizona, and he did, they won the game. He passed 48 times, which you would think would be great. Only 281 yards and 1 touchdown. He had 2 interceptions though, and that really kind of tanked his numbers. I think he probably would have out. I forget what our point scoring system is set up for negative points for.
Each picks 2 points. So that's 4 points off the board, but even still, he would have got outperformed by Mr. Brock Purdy.
Yeah. Well, no, 4 points. He would have been the same. Yeah, you're right. Brock Purdy would have outperformed him by like half a point. But I had Gardner Minshew on the bench. I didn't think he would have put up 20 points. And the crazy part about the 20 points that Minshew put up is that was with 2 interceptions and 2 fumbles and 1 fumble lost. So Minshew had a great game, threw for 355 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 4 carries, 5 yards, and a touchdown, 2 fumbles, 1 fumble loss. Like, dude was all over the place. But against Dallas's defense, put up a great number of points. I picked him up off of waivers just to block Seton Power from picking him up. So like I went all out and I picked up like all these like random quarterbacks that I thought might pick up instead of Brock Purdy to start. So I picked up Minshew, I picked up Dalton, I picked up Foles and then dropped Foles because I was like, you know what, Foles is going to be trash this week, which I was right. I wish he had started Foles, not that it would have made a difference.
You didn't pick up this week?
Who?
A W.
Oh, savage. So anyways, Brady sucked. He's really been horrible this year. I hope he goes to a better team. Like we'll talk about Tom Brady in a minute of who we think he could potentially go to this offseason and have it be a better scenario because right now he's no offensive line. He looks absolutely horrible. Every single pass he's like 1 yard pass. It's bad. But I had Gerald Everett 0 points. I had Devontae Adams 2 for 9, 15 yards. Him and Devontae Adams lost a lot of people championships this week. Aaron Jones got injured, 6 carries, 25 yards, 2 for 2 receptions, 9 yards. Wasn't great. That was really it for the underperformers. But between Jones, Adams, Everett, that's a combined under 10 points right there. I think it's like 9 points. And then you add that to Brady and you add like my quarterback, wide receiver, running back, tight end, didn't even combine for 20 points. That's where I lost it right there. Because I actually had Eckler at 23 points, not a bad week. Godwin, 14 points. Bengals defense, 13 points. Tyreek Hill, 14 points. Derrick Henry, 17 points. So, like, those guys performed. I would have beaten King Cobb this week, but all in all, Seton Power destroyed me, and it was some monster performances. So I knew it was not going to be a good sign. When the week started off, I believe it was the Thursday game where George Kittle was facing the Washington Commanders. Brock Purdy threw 2 touchdowns the entire game. They were both to George Kittle. George Kittle had 120 yards and 2 touchdowns, 33 points on the board. Brock Purdy starting off with 16 points. And then we had CeeDee Lamb, went 10 receptions, 120 yards and 2 touchdowns, 34 points. A.J. Brown put up 6 receptions for 103 yards. Jalen Waddle, 143 yards on 5 receptions and a touchdown. Those guys, like, he had 2 people put up over 30 points. He had Waddle put up 25 points and A.J. Brown with 16. The rest of his team actually underperformed. But it didn't matter. I couldn't keep up with those points. It was a bad loss.
Yeah, his team's coming hot at the right time, dude.
Yeah, I'd be interested to look at the projections here coming up for the next week to see what happens. But yeah, I mean, you really couldn't have asked for anything more out of a championship round. And like, nice congrats Seton Power for really pulling it out there and some great pickups. And because the CeeDee Lamb was a pickup he got from Darius as well, which at the time I said, Darius sold CeeDee Lamb really, really low. And turns out that was an absolutely great move on Seton Power's part.
Yeah, true story.
So
not to throw a caveat out there, but like we've talked about in the last 2 weeks, if I had scored an extra 20 points, I know that the show doesn't revolve around me, but for this segment, it does real quick. If I had scored another 20 points in the regular season or a victory, whatever, I talked about last week how I would have won last week's matchup. What was it? Andy and what was it?
It was Andy versus
King Cobb.
King Cobb. Yeah.
I would have beat King Cobb. And then, so let's just say I'd taken Andy's place. And then it would have been me against Darius. I put up 155 again this week. And in a theoretical, hypothetical, fake world of the Matrix, I would have beat Darius this week. And if I played my cards right, it'd be me and Cena Power right now in the finals. But no, I did not make the playoffs at all. So I can shut up now. But just a quick little plug there.
It's true. You definitely have shown up, and next year your team's going to be pretty scary. Just imagine how scary it'd be if you had Garrett Wilson. Yeah. So let's look at this coming week here. We got the third place matchup we're going to talk about, as well as the matchup here of Darius versus Seed and Power for the championship. We actually had a couple people, I think one or two people who in their brackets selected Darius to win it all. Seed and Power, I don't think got any votes to win it all. So he could totally destroy every single one of our brackets, potentially, depending on how this goes. But Darius is currently projected 162 points this week, and Seed and Power is projected 133 points. So not exactly ideal. We're going to refrain from talking about anything that's happening in the game that's going on right now, because there's currently a Thursday night football game going on between Dallas and Tennessee right now. But we're not going to talk about any of those. Let that kind of sway our conversation. But let's start off by talking about the matchup for third place. I know it doesn't really mean a whole lot, but we'll start with that because it's less exciting. Keep people interested.
Yep. Just to confirm, do you get your money back with third place? Is that what it was, or what's the payout for third? You remember?
Let me see. He pinned it to the chat just this a couple days ago. So let me see.
All right. Well, Matt's looking that up. It's him against King Cobb, and Matt's currently projected for about 138, and King Cobb was projected for about 125 ish. See what they got roster wise.
Yep. So third place is in line to receive $119. So that's like the third place prize. The first and second place both receive $1,000, as well as what does it say? $1,000 each guaranteed between first and second place, with the remaining $166 prize money and $95 of the fallen 100 going to the official league champion. So basically, they each get $1,000, and then the winner gets another $250 or so on top of that. And then,
well, it's also because they Seed and Power and Darius agreed to split it, didn't they?
Sure. Yeah,
I think that's why.
Yeah. So it might be a little bit different this year, but they also threw in a little bit more for the actual winner. And then I get or if I say I get, as if I'm going to win third place with my trash roster this week. If I was to win third place, 119. So yeah, let's talk about the rosters here. So I already lost Derrick Henry tonight, not playing. Aaron Jones, questionable. Austin Eckler, questionable. Tyreek Hill.
Derek Carr, not playing.
Derek Carr, not playing. Tom Brady, sucks. Devontae Adams, playing with Jared Stidham, or however you say his last name.
Stidham, yeah.
Yeah, Jared Stidham. We got Amari Cooper, questionable. Tyreek Hill, not playing with Tua, playing with Teddy Bridgewater.
You say Teddy Bitchwater.
Didn't say that, but
all right, my headphones must be jammed or something.
Malfunctioning. Yeah, so this is not going to be an ideal situation, and I'm glad I didn't have to panic going into the finals, where Darius is projected 160 points versus my measly scraps here. But the good news is that King Cobb's roster is still projected worse than mine, and his injury situation is far worse than mine. So we'll see how this goes. But yeah, he's got, Justin Fields looking for a bounce back game against Detroit. Barkley against Indianapolis should get a ton of work. Nick Chubb against Washington. DeAndre Hopkins should. I think Colt McCoy is supposed to be back this week, so I do like Hopkins this week. Sutton against Kansas City. This is a wild card because obviously Denver fired their head coach finally. Hackett's out. So I saw this crazy statistic where like the vast majority of teams, when they get an interim head coach, like win the first game immediately afterwards because they're all like jazzed up and like stoked to work with a new head coach. It happened when you saw Jeff Saturday take over for the Colts. It was like the first game they won.
True story.
So I could see definitely, a resurgence here of the offense in Denver, just with the new head coach coming in. So that could be a good play. And then James Conner's been an absolute workhorse, but he didn't practice today. So that's something to watch for sure. Fournette's been, I mentioned the reason I wouldn't want to start Brady is like every one of his passes is for 1 yard, but they're all going to Leonard Fournette. So in a PPR league, Fournette's still a great play. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't honestly think I'm going to win this week. I think King Cobb's probably going to take third place. But it's going to come down to injuries, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think King Cobb wins this, and you end up with $0, just like the rest of us didn't make the playoffs. I think with you guys have a question mark injury dog with Jones, Eckler, who's starting Tyreek. Is Gerald ever going to throw? Give you 0 points again. Laurie Cooper's questionable. Deshaun Watson's been trash so far. So I don't know, hopefully get your money back, but I'd probably roll with King Cobb this week.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there. I think going into this next season, I need to solidify my tight end position a little bit more. Not that having Kyle Pitts would have helped me out at all at this point in the season. So I'm glad I made the trade that I did. But at the end of the day, like I can't roll with 3 tight ends that might get me 5 points a week. It's not reliable enough for next season. So try to make something happen. If anybody has extra tight ends lying around, they want to, donate to charity before. I
got Alberto looking real pretty for you.
All right, cool. Bet I'll hit you up. But with that being said, let's move over to our championship matchup here. This is exciting stuff. Who would have thought that championship matchup at quarterback we'd have Josh Allen versus Brock Purdy?
I know, it's crazy how things fluctuate throughout the year. It's funny too because I think at the beginning of the season I had Seed and Power in my as my number one ranked on my our power rankings, whatever. And I think he had like kind of a crap year and went 7-7. When I say crap year, I just mean like based off his roster's projections. Yeah. Our question was never his roster. I think he just had some bad luck. Went up against some good teams in the regular season, but hey, he made it in. Like we talked about this season, that's all that matters is getting in there. But yeah, to think that he started off 7-7, and I think I had Darius as my number 2 team on the year, to see them in the finals is kind of poetic. Even look at like their record difference. But yeah, for now, CM Power's projected 133. Darius is like projected like a 160. It would make sense for me to pick Darius just based off projections and how everything's looking so far. But I'm gonna ride the hot hand. I'm gonna roll my boy Seed and Power, avid listener to our podcast, one of our best supporters.
He's a
yeah, I think he gets. What's that?
He binges us. He says.
Yes, he does. But yeah, I'm gonna go Seed and Power. I think he pulls off the upset. I think he ends up with the championship and the number 1 pick next year in the 2023 rookie draft.
Just remember that.
Yeah. Shout out to Angie. Nice trade.
Oh, and I forgot he has Jonathan Taylor on the bench too. Oh, man.
Dude,
that's not fair. Oh, yeah. Man. I just thinking about this right now. Next year, he's going to have Dalvin Cook, Jonathan Taylor, and frickin' Bijan Robinson. And then he's going to have CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown, George Kittle, Jalen Waddle, and either Mike Evans or Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, and one of the best defense in the league with 49ers, not that really matters with defense points, but it's just another
Lamar
cherry on top.
forgot about
And
Lamar.
even like, yeah, Lamar Jackson too,
Oh,
insane.
man.
Yeah, Greg Dortch's a good bench guy for tight end. Jeff Wilson's decent bench option, or Rasheem Moser decent bench option.
Rashad White,
So
forgot to mention that.
Shad White, yep. See what happens with I mean, even like Zamir White, see what happens with him with I bet I'm having a blank.
Josh
Brain fart.
Jacobs.
Yeah, with Josh Jacobs gonna be a free agent. Daniel Bellinger looked pretty good at times. So
I just can't. Does he still have his own first round pick?
ooh, I don't know.
No, he doesn't have another. He has Angie's pick, and then he doesn't have another first round pick until 2025. But trust me, he's not going to need it. Um, that is just crazy. All right. Well, anyways, enough talking about how scary that's going to be over the next couple weeks. I'm going with Darius. I just think that this week is going to be a resurgence week. Like the game of the year right here is going to be Monday night. It's going to be Diggs and Allen up against Josh Allen and company. I'm sorry, Diggs and Allen versus Joe Burrow and company. He's going to, and that's just going to be absolute shootout. So I'm stoked for that game. If Lamar comes back this week, which I heard he could come back, I like Mark Andrews a lot more. Keenan Allen has been on fire. I'm going to ride that hot hand there. And then Kelsey's obviously in a tier of his own. The biggest question marks here is DeAndre Swift and Darius Slayton. But I think that Seton Powers' team is already injured enough in a couple of key areas, quarterback and Rashad White having to start here, that the rest of those stars, like it's going to be pretty good. Because Mike Evans hasn't been, I don't think, let me see, I'll pull up his stat line real quick, but I don't think Mike Evans has been a tight end one since like the first 2 weeks of the year or something crazy like that.
Yeah, I don't think Mike Evans has been a tight end one at all this year. Maybe a WR one at some point, but
Uh, wow, I'm an idiot. Okay, so he has been a wide receiver one 2 times this year. And then last time he was a wide receiver one, it was in week 7 against Carolina, and he had 18 points. And that was the last time. He has since then wide receiver 13, wide receiver 33, wide receiver 39, wide receiver 75, 43, 50, 29, 55. He's only scored more than 10 points 2 times in that stretch of time since week 7. So Mike Evans this week, probably garbage play, to be honest. And as much as you want to trust Mike Evans, Tom Brady can't get it done right now. So that's obviously a weak spot. Jalen Waddle against New England. New England has a great defense this year, and they're not playing with Tua. So again, got to take that
you
into.
said Tom Brady can't get it done. Do you think that's why I left him because he can't get it done?
I think that's probably what happened. Yeah,
There's pills and things for that, but we'll move
yeah,
on.
yeah, and it is true. You're not wrong. But yeah, I mean those are going to be the weak spots in the roster for Seed and Power this week, and I think Darius has built a good enough team to be able to take this championship home. And gosh, I just really hope Travis Kelce retires this offseason. That would be fantastic. Not going to
Dude,
happen. That'd be cool.
he's 33 and he's so still insane. That's crazy, dude. I mean, I talked about like a month ago about how I thought Gronk was a little bit better in their prime, just with what he could do as a blocker as well. But
Yeah.
one thing you have to give to Kelsey over any tight end is just the longevity and the absolute consistency for him, dude. He's 33, and by far, like the difference between him and like I guess Mark Andrews is bigger than Mark Andrews and probably the third tight end. Like that's how big he is. So.
Even like, well, George Kittle showed like last 2 weeks, like what can happen if you use him. He looks like a stud. Last 2 weeks, 4 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. Like if you give him targets and opportunities, he's great. It's nothing to do with his talent. It's just opportunity in that system. So
Yeah,
like
and then the 8 games he plays a year too, you know.
that too, right? But again, everyone in the San Francisco system gets injured. So is that really a George Kittle thing, or is that a San Francisco problem? Tom Brady's like been injured twice in his 18-year career, which, speaking of which, did you see that today is officially the day that Tom Brady has been in the NFL more than half of his life?
Yeah, that's insane.
He was drafted, and then he spent just as much time now since being drafted as he did before being drafted. It's insane.
Ways to go.
Anyways, never hardly missed a game because of injury at all. If he goes to San Francisco next year, I could see it being a situation where he finally gets injured. And then it's like,
this man's projecting a Tom Brady injury in 2023. Turn off the podcast. It's time to go.
Tom Brady injury if he goes to the Shanahan system. I don't know what's in the water over there, but they're drinking grape juice or something. Fragile bones. Yeah, I don't know. I think that I did hear rumors about San Francisco for Tom Brady next year as an interest.
Yeah, San Fran, maybe the Raiders possibly reuniting with Daniels if Carr's gone, but we'll see. I've also seen a lot of stuff about him joining up with Mr. Sean Payton. He wants to come back into coaching and them kind of being a team effort, but we'll see what happens with that.
Well, that was the original plan when they were trying to coop the Dolphins or whatever that was supposed to be. Supposed to be Brady coming in, Peyton coming over, and then that obviously didn't happen. But like,
hey, he's always welcome back in the Patriots as long as Matt Patricia is gone, and dude, maybe even Bill at this point. I don't know, but
Tom Brady would not let Matt Patricia run that offense, but we don't need to get Matt Patricia ran. We already spent enough time.
Matt Jones is not sending him a Christmas card, and Tom Brady's for sure not sending him a Christmas card. Absolutely.
No, definitely not. Giselle might, but that's the question. We're still at it.
Yeah, it'll be her and Antonio Brown, like joint Christmas card, but it's neither here nor there.
All right. So with that being said, appreciate everyone for tuning in again this week, talking a little bit more in depth about these matchups. And going into championship week, we wish Seed and Power and Darius the best of luck. And obviously, we're going to take you down next year, but I'm excited to see if there's any trades that open up or any moves that start happening after the championship week is done before we film the podcast, or if people are going to hold off and wait. Darius, Seed and Power, now that you guys both watch the podcast, whichever one of you guys wins, please be available for hopping on the podcast next week. We'd love to have you if you are willing to come on. So whenever the matchups are determined with the champion being named, we'll reach out and let's make something happen and get you guys on, because we'd love to hear your take on it again. Darius, if it's your second time on the pod now, make it happen, man. Make it happen. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Let's what do we got for the Patriots this week? Oh yeah, I'm going to the game. Let's go.
That's dope. I love that for you, but I hope they lose because this team sucks, and the better draft pick we can get, the better at this point. I'm so done with this season.
You mean you don't like the path that they could still make the playoffs at this point?
What if
it's not wild. If we win out, we make the playoffs. If we win this week.
Wait. Are you sure that if we win out, we'd make the playoffs? I think someone would have to lose out or something.
Yes, but it's like a super easy, you could totally see it happening type of victory.
Yeah, like us beating the Bills next weekend, totally can see that happening for sure.
But there was a situation where we lose to the Bills and we still make it in, and it involved the Jets winning, and the Jets have to lose this week and then win next week or something like that. And then there was something else involving the Texans, but I can't remember what it was. But there are two scenarios where the Patriots make the playoffs still, and it's not that crazy of a chance. But I think that any team that's out there wants the Patriots to win, because if they do and they make the playoffs, it'd be the easiest first round of the playoffs they'll ever have. So
you do make a good point, actually, because now it's 7 teams make the playoffs in the conference.
Yes, it's for the seventh.
Yeah, dude, that's nuts. Yeah, we're technically 8th right now, and we play Miami this week. So if we beat them, we have the same record. And then what? Because I think at this point, Chargers is a given. It's just trying to get that 7th spot. Yeah, I think that's kind of wild. Yeah, you just have to beat the Bills the week after.
Well, like I said, there's 2 scenarios here. So 2 scenarios. 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 2 Let me see if I can find the.
All right, so I think this is one thing that has to happen. So we beat the Dolphins, and then the week after we beat the Bills. That means the Dolphins would then have to lose to the Jets, and we would have a better record than the Dolphins at that point, and we would slide to the seventh seed. And then there's probably another one that's a little bit more complicated in how we'd make it.
Yeah, they said so. Path one is win the rest of the way out. Um, if that's the case, we would beat the Bills, and we'd be beating Miami.
Oh, because we technically would hold a tiebreaker over Miami at that point somehow.
Right, because we've beaten them once, if not twice. Because didn't we beat Bridgewater last time they played them?
So yeah, we'd be 1-1, but I'm looking at it now. If we went out, our division record would be 4-2, while Miami's, if they lose this week to us, the best they could do is 3-3. So if we both end up at 8-8, we went out, they lose one, win one, we'd have a better division record, which would then bump us up above Miami. So that makes sense.
So that's step one. That's path number one. Not very likely, but that because us beating the Bills not very often. Path two is us beating the Dolphins but losing to the Bills. And so this is where things get crazy. So unless the Bills decide to throw the finale, which is certainly possible, the Patriots could find themselves on the losing end of Week 18. However, they could lose to the Bills, still get in through other means. So they would need both the Vegas Raiders and the Pittsburgh Steelers to lose at least one more game, which Raiders probably going to lose this week, but we would need this. We would need the Ravens to beat the Steelers this week, or the Steelers to lose to the Browns the next week after that. The Raiders are playing San Francisco and the Chiefs, so like that's pretty
Given.
likely. But we need both of them to win once. That's certainly possible. The other dominoes would need to fall as the Jaguars would need to lose to the
Well,
Texans.
we need the Steelers and Raiders to win once or lose once.
Um, sorry, yes, lose once.
Okay, got it. Which is almost a given. Okay.
At least one more game for both of those. And then the other dominoes is that the Jaguars would need to lose to the Texans, and then also lose to the Titans. And then so like they could lose to the Texans. Texans almost beat the Chiefs. Like that's possible. But then losing to the Titans would be really interesting to see. And then the Jets would need to lose to Seattle, but then bounce back and beat the Dolphins in the final game.
Gotcha.
So that second scenario is kind of a long shot, but it's possible. Like I could see those things happening. But easiest scenario, win the rest of the way out. And then I think I read that if the Patriots win the rest of the way out, we would end up facing the Bills back-to-back weeks because we'd have to face them in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, let's win back to back so we can get destroyed in the playoffs because of the Bills again. Love to see it.
Love to face the Bills 3 times in the same year with a trash team. But we don't have to worry about that because I'm going to be there giving them good vibes in person. Pretty good seats. We'll post some pictures in the chat. Stoked to go, and it's supposed to be nice weather. It's originally going to rain, and they got like warm gear for Christmas, and ready to rock and roll and brave the elements. But it's now going to be apparently like 40s to 50s. Not super rainy, just overcast. So should be a good game. But I actually do think that they win against Bridgewater. The defense for Miami's not that great, and without Tua there, I think that there is a chance to win. What do you think?
Also, yeah, usually I'd pick the Dolphins, but also fun fact: Mac Jones with Bill Belichick is 3-0 after a back-to-back loss. So, fun fact of the day: I think we go 4-0.
Let's go.
Also, the Patriots locker room's got to be pretty pissed how they've been playing lately. I mean, if we went out and make the playoffs, like, do you imagine how much easier we could have made it on ourselves with like the Raiders loss and then some of the other stuff we've done.
Yeah, I think that it's a good sign to be like, hey, we still have a chance to make it in, even considering how garbage this is, because it's only up from here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the only downside of that is like if you do make the playoffs, like what do you think the odds are that Matt Patricia doesn't get fired? Like because they made the playoffs, you know?
I mean, I still think, dude, it's like a bottom five offense, regardless, even if you make the playoffs. If anything, that means that the defensive coordinator needs to pay raise, but I don't know.
You mean the defensive coordinator we have running offense?
Our real defensive coordinator.
Oh, okay,
With the Bears. Yeah, not Mr. Matty.
Is that Belichick's son? Is he the?
So it's according to them, it's like an organic process where it's Bill, Steve, his son, and then I think Gerard Mayo as well. They're kind of all spearheading it. I don't think they don't necessarily have a defensive coordinator label wise. I think mostly it's Bill and his son, and then whatever Gerard Mayo has the input.
Interesting. Well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Excited to see who's the championship of the first year of the SKOL Dynasty League and the championship of That Dynasty Podcast's season-long endeavors. I'm excited to see, where this next year takes us. Thanks everyone for tuning in and checking us out. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter and TikTok as well, if you haven't, at That Dynasty Pod. And until next time, best of luck to you in your fantasy championships. And on behalf of Isaiah and myself, have a happy week 17. We'll catch you next time.